Hello, this is Yaro and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast. Today's guest is Lance Nelson, who makes 60,000 euros per year writing a blog about a ski resort in Bulgaria. Let their journey begin. Hi, this is Yaro, professional blogger, podcaster, and living the laptop lifestyle. Thank you so much for downloading this episode of the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast, the show where I interview other successful online entrepreneurs and we can hear everything they do to grow a successful business. You'll hear the background stories, the upsides, the downsides, everything that goes on behind the scenes when you're growing a business, serving to inspire you and give you practical tips and techniques you can apply directly to your growth of your own online business. Wow, that was a mouthful. All right, let's move on. So today's guest is Lance Nelson, who is a former member of my blog mastermind program, but that's not the reason I brought him on board. The reason I've got him for this interview is he started a blog about a ski resort, which is a pretty obscure niche, and I was very surprised to hear that he's actually making money from it. To be honest, I didn't think you could make as much money from a blog about a ski resort as Lance is doing. He's making 60,000 euros per year from this very small niche resort blog. And yeah, it's an amazing story. You're going to hear exactly how he grew the traffic, how he makes money from it, which is not your typical ways of making money from a blog, a little bit different. This is a great story for anyone who wants to do a blog about something to do with travel. You're going to learn a lot about how you can take your passion for travel, for skiing, for summer holidays, whatever it might be, and translate that into an income source. And ideally, the holy grail, as you could call it, quit your job so you can run that blog full time, which is exactly what Lance did. So he's moved from a finance role in the UK to living in Bulgaria, doing a skiing blog, skiing himself, and truly living the laptop lifestyle. So I'm going to press play in just a moment, but first I would love to invite you to join any of my EJ Insider coaching programs. Blog Mastermind is the one that Lance went through, which is available at blogmastermind.com/sign up. You can register for the early notice list, or it might be already available as you're listening to this, depending on what time you are downloading this podcast. You can also see all my other training programs, my e-guides, and all the group coaching and private coaching offers available. Anything to do with professional blogging, I'm your man, and it's all available from ejinsider.com. Let's get going on this interview. Here is Lance. And today I have a person on the line with me who will definitely serve as an inspiration for anyone who thinks that their little niche passion is not a viable online business based on a blog, because my guest, Lance Nelson, who's originally from the UK but now lives in Bulgaria, has translated, I'm sure would be a passion for skiing, into a fairly thriving business all around essentially a ski slope called Bansko in Sofia, Bulgaria. I think I said all of that correctly, right, Lance?
Nearly correctly.
Oh, yeah. Darn.
Bansko is a ski resort some 2 hours away from Sofia, but okay, in Bulgaria. Yeah.
Phew, not bad though, not bad. So
very good.
Now, what I'm impressed, I was asking Lance before we started this interview just for some numbers to give people listening here sort of a picture of what's possible and what you've been doing. Most recently, the numbers you gave me, you're making about 60,000 euros from the entire business that's been derived around this Bansko blog, and you're actually expanding quite extensively into apps as well, which we'll talk about later. And you're doing it with comparatively quite a small amount of traffic, about 80,000 unique visitors a year. Not a day or a month as some blogs get, but a year. And you're doing that with various different ways you're monetizing your blog, all related to skiing in Bansko or going to this resort in Bansko. So to me, that's, I mean, I've never heard of Bansko before I met Lance, and I've been really impressed to sort of learn the different ways you've built a business around this. So if anyone here, as you're listening to this interview, you have an interest in, I don't know, it could be another skiing resort in this planet. There's obviously a great opportunity to follow in Lance's footsteps, or I guess any sort of niche hobby. You really can bring it down to something small. But let's learn how Lance has done this. So Lance, first of all, thank you for joining me on this interview.
My pleasure, Yaro.
So I'm also very excited to introduce Lance because he is a previous blog mastermind student, and I love hearing success stories, especially when they're in these really special, unique niches like that. So Lance, can we go back in time first though? You used to be a regular working Joe, is that right?
That's absolutely right, Yaro. And I was typical of many people. I was working in a bank, in corporate banking, asset finance, and no young spring chicken for me. I've been doing it or had been doing it for some 20 years before going it full time on the blog. So yeah, the corporate world was for me, but I just kind of knew I had to get out of it.
You had no prior businesses of your own before or during that career?
No.
Awesome. So you basically have been a steady corporate employee from high school to university to getting a job and then going down that career path.
Absolutely right. From university, after university, went into a division of National Westminster Bank, or Royal Bank of Scotland as it's now called. Was there for 10 years and then moved to a few other places, including GE Capital, EMC Finance, and more latterly Barclays.
Okay.
So yeah, a corporate boy, and now out of the corporate world, thankfully.
Yeah, well, that's no doubt going to be inspiring for anyone who's had a career already and might be feeling it's a young man or a young woman's game only to start an online business. So let's show them what's possible, Lance. Now, you're sitting in your corporate job, and are you hating it, or are you just sort of exploring opportunities, seeing what's going on online? Obviously, you were exposed to the dot-com boom and then the second dot-com boom that might be said is going on now. Like, how interested were you in this?
I think I've always quite enjoyed the technology side. When I was at university, I spent a year out in IBM. So I had been exposed to technology, and then I kind of always felt that the corporate world didn't give me complete creativity. Obviously, it's different working for someone else as well, so you've got that piece to consider. And so I was up for something that I could really express myself. Greater scope of expression you can get than in the corporate world. And no, I'll be honest. If you're one of the people sitting behind your desk or in the evening after a hard slog and a commute, I know how that feels. And I know the frustration sometimes you feel, unless maybe you're making it to the top, and that's great. But perhaps if you're not going to make it to the top and you're in the middle management layer, and you're kind of thinking what else you could do, then, and if you've got a passion that you can certainly write about, then hopefully this interview will prove that you can do it.
So was writing your thing? Like, I'm assuming you at some point, okay, let's stop dreaming about leaving this job and start building something that potentially could lead to it happening. Did you look at all range of opportunities, from blogging to YouTube to doing affiliate marketing, starting an e-commerce store, or like what brought you into your own business space first?
I think I sort of started with what I was actually interested in, and so first job, I kind of thought, well, blogging will be a way of talking about stuff I'm interested in, namely, my ski thing. And I thought, well, if I go down another path, then I'm going to always struggle to make the content. As for the direct affiliative and affiliate kind of route, then I just didn't quite connect with that, to be fair. So for some reason, I really can't remember why. I just kind of felt, well, blogging was getting pretty big, going back 5 or 6 years ago, and I could see that was a route to doing something good may come from that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what did you do to try and make this a reality?
Well, first thing, I bought your course. So, I realised, having very quickly on, that I was on the right track. I need to do something that I really want to do. I had in mind a complete career change. You've got to remember, at this stage, I was working for an employer, so it was necessary to have something that didn't require too much effort, albeit I'm not a natural writer. I don't have any particular gift there. I've never done it in any previous job other than the odd email, like anybody else. So if people are out there listening to this and think you have to be some copywriter or some journalist, then I certainly do not come into that category. So that's really how I started, thinking of something I'm really interested in, thinking it might give me a lifestyle change, which was what I was really after. And then I picked up on, we've been going to Bansko for a few years, enjoyed the skiing, got a property there, and that's how it all started.
Okay, so I'm surprised and impressed that you picked up my course as the first thing you did. That's really amazing. Is this a case of you just going, okay, look at my life, Bansko and skiing is something I love. Like you said, you bought a property there, so you're going to be spending a regular repeat time there. You're learning a lot about the place. That makes sense for me to be my first attempt at building a blog and just to see how it goes. Did you just sort of install WordPress, get yourself a domain name and then just start producing content?
Pretty much, Yaro, yes. I did feel it was the right route. Obviously, I was doing research generally on how the story could go in terms of a blogging story. And I think one of the you started off the interview talking about people in maybe after huge traffic and appealing to a huge audience around the world. Yeah, for sure. There's content on my site that is appealing for people who are not necessarily coming to the country and the ski resort. But in the main, it is a very much focused thing I'm doing. And it does enable you to immerse yourself and become the expert in something quite narrow, i.e. a place. So I kind of felt it was a reasonable strategy. To be fair, I had my doubts at some, because it is a long process. I was doubting the wisdom of my approach, for sure, probably after 12 months of doing it and, not really going for any income at that stage. But it was actually a time when I came over to really just I decided, right, enough of the corporate world. I'll have a little break and see how it goes. So I started properly monetizing the blog then when I was over in the resort full time. Okay. And so that's when I started to think, yeah, this could be interesting.
I have to say, I mean, if you were on the coaching calls with me and you said you started a blog about a specific ski resort, I might have said you've potentially niched that too narrow. Yeah. I would have said maybe let's go for all of Bulgaria, or maybe let's go for all of Western or Eastern Europe, or something like that, because maybe selling tickets to various resources across a few countries as opposed to one specific resort just seems very, very narrow. But you proved me wrong in a lot of ways there. But before we move on, you mentioned 12 months there of working on this blog. You had your full-time job before you decided to, I assume, take a break and live off savings, since the blog wasn't covering your costs yet. But that 12 months, were you just going home after work and writing, one article every second day? Like, what was your initial process to build the basic platform of your blog? Yeah,
it was pretty much that way, Yaro. I mean, I can't quite recall how frequent the articles were. They possibly were one every 3 days on average. And I still struggle. I often go through a couple of weeks to produce content, and I think you may have even talked about being in the flow for it. And sometimes you've got to do it when you feel like it, and then perhaps not do it when you don't. And I think your audience will forgive you for that. It's better to have quality rather than just quantity, was my view. So, yeah, in a nutshell, the answer to your question is yes, do it after hours. And, knowing that it's about, getting the long tail search words, mindful of SEO considerations, okay, and getting that down. Yeah. Can
you tell us what sort of things you targeted? Like, did you sort of pick specific, Sophia ski packages? Did you find these phrases and then write an article specifically to match that? Like, how strategic was this versus just generally rambling about this love of skiing you have, because in a way you've got such a niche site that your SEO competition, I'm presuming, isn't that significant because it is so narrow and niche, which is in many ways brilliant, because you can probably have a successful blog with not a ton of content. You just have to be consistent enough to become the authority, and you're not going to have sophisticated competition, which is the benefit of going narrow. So I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, did you just pick, okay, there's these 20 articles that I need to get written about the core things like restaurants, nightlife, ski hire, getting there, where do you live, those things, and once you've written articles about all of those, the traffic started coming in already? Is that what happened?
Yeah, you're largely correct, although rather bizarrely, there was more competition than you'd expect. This in part was because it was a new resort. Quite a few people moved there because there was a property boom going on. There were a couple of other sites producing content as well. And, there were some people who were battling to get keywords for, certainly in the hospitality industry part of it, so the hotels and apartments. And rather strangely, it can be a bit more competitive than you think. So, yes, it is niche, but there's always competition, there's always other websites. And in this particular resort, whilst it's not a huge resort in terms of domain, it had a big following and has a big following. It gets, can you believe, about 600,000 skiers or visitors there every ski season. And, there was competition. That's what I say. Yeah, and I had to keep at it to move up the rankings.
Okay, so what did you write about during that first 12 months, and what did your traffic look like at the end of it?
So obviously you start from zero, and it's like every milestone. You think, God, I can't believe it if I managed to get 5 people a day, and you just keep plodding along. And then I was amazed. I was getting like 30 people a day, and wow, unbelievable. But that took about 3 months, 4 months to get to that stage. And then after a year, I seem to recall I was getting above 50 a day. And it's a very seasonal business, so it depends what time of year I'm talking about. And then, if we fast forward to where we are now, I did some strategic things like put a live webcam, and another one's going to go up as well. So my own live webcam to help drive traffic to the blog. Then, I can be up to 2,000 people a day on when there's a big snowfall happening.
Yeah, right.
So it's yes, you're right. The sort of content, how to book ski lessons, and obviously, giving links, restaurants, bars, cafes, and all that sort of stuff. I wrote a guide, which still to this day has just been expanded upon, and drives people to an email list as per your instructions, Yaro. Really, I followed.
Good student.
To the letter, and and it's great, So that one guide for this one small place in a place that many people couldn't put a pin on a map, has probably been downloaded by about 6,000 people now, at least. So it's a good strategy for people to follow in their niche, I think, to get a guide done, and that helped. So to answer your question, I'm rambling a little bit just to say. The progress was slow initially, but I kept at it until it started moving.
Yeah, I have to say, though, at the end of 12 months, you've got 50 visitors a day. Then you decide to leave your job and move to Bansko for a while to keep working on it. Everyone around you must have thought you were nuts after putting a year into it and not really making any money, I presume, by then. You had a lot of faith, didn't you, in this, Lance?
Yeah. I think I did. I think there's a section of the population who we can be quite, perhaps a little bit stubborn, but just think, if we just keep doing it, we'll get there and we'll find out more. So it was a leap of faith, I think, to quite a large extent. But when you start getting some progress, when you start getting, and I started, to be fair, thinking, jogging my memory now, I started to, because I had a property there, so I was actually getting some rentals from my property because I was promoting that. So that was a nice little bit of extra income. So there was a little bit of encouragement happening after about 7 or 8 months, I seem to recall, of doing this.
Actually, yeah. That's sort of the time frame when I started to feel encouragement too. I think I remember feeling after 6 months that I'm not sure this is going anywhere. What am I doing? Maybe I should stop. And then, 7 or 8, you start seeing a bit of affiliate income in my case. And I'm like, okay, I just need to increase the numbers and increase the income channels. And, this can work. So let's progress forward. You've built a platform then. You've got your 50 visitors a day. Not a lot, but it's a very small niche. And you've built your newsletter with that guide, that free report you give away, which is the essential guide to, I assume, skiing in Bansko. Yeah. And I'm assuming you didn't do too many, I don't know what to call these things, like going out. In the Blog Profits Blueprint, I'd call you building communication channels. So did you go out there and bring people back to this blog, or was it just because you're writing articles and getting good rankings in Google?
Okay, so there is a forum that certainly at the time was quite popular, and I did participate in that for the first 18 months. And I did drop it because I kind of felt I was very careful how I put it. No self-promotion, all the good guidelines that just contribute as much goodness as I could. But I was doing a little bit of that, getting my name out. But nonetheless, I was focusing on getting the content there because content is king. People need to see something or read something. And I realized I kind of had a voice for a certain section of people that were enjoying it, because the good news is whilst there's a saying here in Bulgaria, you can't eat thanks, but nonetheless, you're encouraged when you get a few nice emails, and that keeps you going. That's like a currency, I think.
Okay, so predominantly it's just Google traffic and then a bit of time in a forum over 18 months, and that's what built your ground roots traffic.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Well, take us through the second year and beyond. So you moved to Bansko, and then did you do anything, I guess, more significant at that point? Since you were on the mountain, it's obviously easier to produce content about the place when you're there. Can you, even if you could give us some highlights, were there certain moments where you suddenly got a traffic increase because you did something, or suddenly made a chunk of money because you did something?
So basically what I did is took a camera up the mountain with me and stuck it at my face and gave people a virtually live snow report. So I'd video myself saying, here's the snow, here's the weather, here's the forecast, and I'm very interested in weather. One of my passions has been paragliding flying. So I've been kind of studying weather patterns for that sport for many years now. So I'd give my little view on what the weather's likely to be and any snowfall that's likely to be due, and pan round and show the skiing, and 1 or 2 minute video. That was it.
Every day?
At that time I was doing it. I probably did it every other day, and that really did have a great impact. So some of these videos, actually, funny enough, particularly if I got a guest person as well, I'd occasionally find someone who could also do it. But we're getting 300-400 views for these videos, and these days, on a good day, we get 1,000, almost within 2 days of doing the video, and that brings. Yeah. Sorry,
go ahead. Just going to say, you put that on YouTube and put it on the blog, and that was it.
That was, along with a commentary. Yes, so there'd be some words to go with it. So I think that was the turning point. If looking back, that really gave it a boost and gave me some confidence that, hey, I have got an audience here, and they are interacting with me now, and they're making comments a bit on the blog. So I was encouraged then at that stage.
So did you look to start making more money at that point, or what happened next?
I did. I thought, well, now is the time to try and think what's the best way, and the obvious way was to do these ski packages. I'd found a very reliable local guy who has a number of shops in the town in good locations for the ski hire lessons. And so I just did that, ski hire and lessons, and that brought in not a huge income, but it brought in an income. So that was encouraging. But I did have, it wasn't enough. I still was probably dipping into savings at this stage.
Just before you tell us more about other income streams, sure. I am curious with the ski packages, and it's someone local. From a technological standpoint, how did that work? Because you need to track your referrals, or did you sell them directly from your website? How did it happen?
I sell them directly from my website. So they will go and in those days it was a Excel spreadsheet, fill in exactly what they wanted, and then from there they'd make payment, and everything else would be sorted. Their lift from the airport to their ski hire and lessons.
So how does that work? Like, they paid you with PayPal, then you called your friend down in the village and said, "Hey, we just got an order." And is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're not too far off. It was all done via email, they'd fill out the form. There'd be an Excel spreadsheet of the bookings, and they'd know that they'd paid, and it turned out, and it still is, a great system and almost unique, that you can just rock up, show your form, and be in and out of your, trying on your skis and fitted literally within a couple of minutes. It's a very slick system indeed. And it's not high. Interestingly enough, it's slick because it's not computerized within the shop, because many shops do have computers and they're busy scanning things and creates bottlenecks. So it's a really cool system to process a lot of people for that ski hire within a very short space of time through this pre-booking method.
So I'm on your site right now, and if I click that fairly large ski packages icon you've got in the right sidebar, that opens up a form that I can fill in, which then goes on to ask me about ski and snowboard hire, lessons, lift passes, and transfers. So at the end of that, will I just end up making payment? The money will go to you, and then you'll send the email down to everyone related to delivering those services, and I would get a printout that I would just take with me, and when I land and get to Bansko, I would just show all the various people this, and they'd check that everything was confirmed, and away I go. Is that pretty much how it works?
But give or take, yes. The transfer, you don't, it just was all booked up, and you wouldn't even have to show a piece of paper. But people would print everything off. There's notes they print off, and the new form, which is I've developed, I think it's going to be totally unique in the world, is a sort of custom ski hire booking form where you can log in and log back in, so it's particularly good for groups. And you can imagine if you're booking lift passes for a week for a group of 12 people, the money adds up. So these are quite high value sales per sale.
And how did you arrange this with the various service providers? Did you just find out their fee or ask them to give you a wholesale fee, and then you tagged on your own percentage on top of that?
Yeah, I asked for a discount of what they would charge for just turning up, and then took my fee from that. And as I say, I just worked solely with one provider, who's a wonderful guy. He trusted me, so I have a lot to thank him for, because this was a rather unusual case of the agent taking all the money and then passing it on later. And we've worked together for 5 years now, and it still works brilliant.
Yeah, great idea for any travel blogger out there who's looking for something to sell on their website. Like, just find services that other travelers would want to buy and arrange sort of deals and sell directly. It's a simple but effective idea. So you said it wasn't enough to live off initially, though. So what happened next? Did you add some more income streams?
Yeah, well, actually, I at that stage, one reason or another, I decided to go back to the UK and see what happens. Now, much to my complete amazement, I did get full-time employment for a year. So, and that was with Barclays.
Was your belief a little bit shaky then? Was it?
Yeah. Well, it was a very interesting time because, obviously the crash had happened in 2008, if you like. And I was their first recruit, really. And having been out of it for a little while, I was very pleased to get back in, I guess, in some respects. But then pretty much immediately I realised, I perhaps should have just sweated it out for a bit longer and stayed in Bulgaria. But no, I went back to full-time employment and kept the blog going. And what happened was that I just sort of had time to improve it, build up the traffic, do all the good stuff of producing content. And when the ski season happened, it went very well. Even though I wasn't there, obviously I was in full-time employment in the UK, and then a year later, I just felt, well, this is going fine. This is a fine income. I've got no debts. This is not a problem, and I can live off this, even if it doesn't really grow very much from here. But yet, I can have a much, much better lifestyle. I don't have to be commuting. I don't have to be answerable to someone all the time, and the usual stuff you get in a big bank. So then I decided, I think this is fine. So I'll go full time with it. And that's when it really, really started to happen.
So that was the third year of running your blog?
Yep, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. So you went back to Bulgaria, you quit your job for the last and final time?
Yes, that's right, yes.
And you said you're making enough. Was it just pretty much from the ski packages that you were selling off the site?
Pretty much then, it was. I mean, there was a few thousand euros coming in from, the advertising as well, which was great. But, mainly through the packages. I very much, your tip to listeners was to think about things that you can resell in a resort or in your niche. And I'm a great fan of that, and to try and keep your site as clean as possible as well, with not too many ads either. So that kind of felt the right thing, and to target the right sort of customer that I wanted to target.
What were those ads you said? What are they? Like you said, there's not many on your site, but you said you made some money from advertising. Is it just the banners?
Banners, also in the newsletter, so they get a link and a mention there, and also sponsored articles as well, which I still do. And I put a full disclosure if it's a paid-for article. And that's great for all parties, really. I feel I've built up a degree of trust, and I only work with people and places that I feel offer something I'm going to enjoy. Usually I've experienced it before anyhow, so it's quite an easy review for me to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's almost like the fun part for me, getting paid to have a nice meal, and a free meal, and then money afterwards. So
okay, so can you just break down all your income streams? Sorry, cut you off there, Lance, because I'm just...
No, that's fine. No, so there's paid for reviews. There's obviously the direct sales we've been talking about in terms of the ski packages. There's the banner ads, both top of article banner and side 125 banners, and there's email links as well, newsletters. And also now there's a whole listings technology we've got in that runs into the app that gives me income as well from various places. I often combine these together into a package, I hasten to add. Mm-hmm. And that's been going very well, just collecting through the app, which I got involved with way over 2 years ago. And we may come on to that in a moment. Yeah. But those are the main income streams that were coming in, and there's more that will come in the future. I can sell other products. The form can be adapted to sell, I don't know, skidoo experiences or whatever. And I went to another income stream I had last year that went very well was to do an offline map. I found an artist to hand draw the town and the piece map, and so I got those printed up, sold the advertising. And that served the purpose to advertise my blog and the app, as well as produce, a nice little income for the effort of doing that. So the app is, so kind of like you've got this app, map, and blog sort of free thing going on, which I now feel would be quite hard for anybody to replicate.
I was going to say, you must be kind of famous in Bansko.
Well, yes, people do know me, including the owner of the resort, and I work independently though, and work with everybody. I believe I built up a good reputation for integrity, and keeping things to myself. That's very important if you're doing a very small niche like this, is to be seen to be trustworthy, because people know you're going to be talking to their competitors and so forth. So this is very important.
Okay. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, which I know people will be interested in, the technology here, before we move on to the app as well, even just the website and the Excel form you're talking about. Now, you're a corporate banker guy, and you said you're interested in technology, but I'm assuming when you started all this and as things progressed, your skill set's not web design, blog setup, setting up scripts, doing all of that. So do you have help with all of this?
Yes, I do. In fact, whilst I felt I could probably work out how to do it all myself, to a basic level, I did actually pay. Actually, one of your past students, I believe, and I've just forgotten his name. Forgive me, but he does WordPress sites.
Joel, was it?
Joel. Yep. Joel, that's it.
Blog tech guy.
So Joel, blog tech guy. Yes, it was on the tip of my tongue. Thanks very much. So he did a great job, and so that just got it up and running. And subsequent to them, when I've gone through some tweaks, and last year I did a sort of a new theme on the site, I got someone else to do all that stuff for me. Okay. So yeah, I'm not a programmer. I'm not a someone who I would trust myself to start trying to do all these different elements. So I think that's important for people to realise. You do not have to be from the IT world to make this happen. Do
you remember how much you paid at the very, very beginning just to get started?
Oh gosh, I think not a lot. I mean, this site was up and running for, let's say, if we put it in dollars, about $300, $400, let's say. Certainly under $500, no more than that. Mm-hmm. The whole thing was done, up and running, looking pretty much the way I wanted it. It was running off the thesis theme, and it was very simple for me just to play around with where I'd put the video, the sign-up form, and all the bits that people learn on your course, really, to be honest.
Okay, and you controlled that yourself using the thesis theme?
Yes, that's right. The WordPress back office is, I think most people can probably get their way around that quite easily, and will find it very conducive to adding the content.
And what about your newsletter? What did you use for that?
I used Aweber, again, through your recommendation, and still do, actually. And that has an incredibly high success rate for getting through to people. And, depending on the content and the timing, I get unbelievable click-through rates. They can be as high as 100%,
wow.
So
I'm jealous.
It's just... It's extraordinary. I mean, typically it's not. It's 15%, 20%, but that's still quite pleasing, frankly. So it's quite a clean list. People unsubscribe when they've had enough, or don't want to come back to the resort again for whatever reason. So that's served me very well. So it's up and down a little bit in terms of numbers. As the season ends, people knock off it, and then new people come on, and it's gradually been growing over the years. So my advice would be to set up that email responder, and as soon as you really start.
Okay, so WordPress with the thesis theme. Joel from blogtechguy.com was your initial tech support person, and Aweber for your newsletter, and that's probably it. Is that sums up your technology?
That sums it up. That's all that was required.
Fantastic. Now, I'm assuming you also have Twitter and Facebook, and you obviously do YouTube videos. All of this is running off banskoblog.com. I'd like to talk about the app, but just before we do that, because kind of wrapping up the whole blog process here, I am really curious, and this is purely a self-indulgent question. Taking Blog Mastermind, my course, what was it from that helped you the most, you think, especially looking back now, after 4 or 5 years?
Good question. I honestly think the biggest thing was obviously going through the stages, the technical stuff that one had to go through, but also it's the motivation. And without motivation, nothing happens. And you, if I may pass you a compliment back, is that you do that very well within the program, and you're not promising instant millions. So it's all believable and it's all credible and it does work. So I think people need to. People who are realistic can go on the course and be sure that this is sound advice. And I just look back to if there's one key thing, it's producing that content, and with a mind to the tips that you give in terms of the keywords and the right tags and this sort of stuff. But mainly to keep up that content and to have your own voice, and you'll find people you'll connect with, and have faith.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now one thing I haven't mentioned yet is Lance and I actually connected through, initially a comment he left on one of my articles on EJ, which led to me finding out that Lance is now doing apps, and he's done one for the Bansko blog, which I had a look at, and I'm actually working with him currently to get one done for my own blog, EJ. So Lance, can you tell us, how did the whole app thing even come into your world with the blog?
Okay, so there was some good fortune, really. Through a friend of mine, I was introduced to a program it's like an entrepreneur's program here, and they wanted me to be a mentor for blogging, on the topic of blogging. So a bunch of young entrepreneurs who were getting information, and they asked me to talk about blogging. And on that course, I met, in fact, 2 people I still deal with regularly, one of which is now my business partner. So he instantly thought that we should work together. And he was right. We very quickly progressed things, and within, certainly within the year, we'd established the fact that we're going to produce more and more blogs together. We'll start off with local ones, more and more apps, forgive me. So now we've actually launched in the App Store 25, and so the business has really ramped up, particularly this year, where 18 have gone through, 19 through this year, I think. So things are now really firing ahead on that side, as I completely got immersed into the world of apps and how they can transform, I think, all sorts of businesses, but certainly transform mine when mine went live in February 2012. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sorry, that was more coming. I was kind of curious with the, I was giving you a drink break there. I thought you were having a drink, Lance. The app, I'm kind of curious with the beginning, before you even had it, and you've been approached by this partner who can produce apps, and the idea is, okay, I'm going to replicate all my blog content into an app form and see if that also, I guess, does the same thing that my blog does. It helps me sell skiing packages, it helps me sell advertising, and it does it all in the app format instead of the blog format. Was that your thinking with the whole motivation behind having an app? Basically, I was pretty certain that everyone was going to be accessing content mobile increasingly as more people got hold of these smartphones. And my strategy was going to be a long-term one, to produce an app that was definitely low-key and focused on providing free information, free to download, free information, not overtly selling you so much. But
but providing the stuff that people really want to know about, which is the videos, the skis, the live webcam, the blog, all that, the snow depth, all this sort of good stuff. And I've been really, really very much impressed, not just how an app from a resort can do, but also how it can do for other businesses as well.
How did the app go? I'm kind of curious, not having had my app go out. Did you just publish it and then it starts getting downloaded immediately, or did you have to sort of email your list and put a blog article up and tell people there's an app available? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so there is a whole pre-launch process one should do, which is talk about it before. I didn't do that. I did a soft launch, so we got it agreed, and it went through first time with Apple, which was great. And so I could double check it. I was cautious, and then went bang. Put out the emails, all the social media stuff, and obviously did stuff on the website. And it very, very quickly got the reviews, got the traction. And this is absolutely key for an app. It has to be useful for people, and if it's useful for people, they will reward you with good comment. And that's a virtuous cycle for anyone who's publishing an app, because it puts you number one as people increasingly search within the app and Google Play Store, and they download your app because they see reviews. Positive reviews, and again, that puts you ahead of any potential competition. So it's a really amazing time, I think, for businesses to get their app out and get a head start.
Does it make you money at the moment?
Yes, it does, actually. I'd say it's broken even now. So I guess that's not making money, but it's still in the investment cycle, because over the last sort of 4 or 5 months, we're adding some really nice features to the app. But what it's enabled is that the advertisers of the bars and restaurants, they've got a direct search within the app, so people can see where places are, they can see the menu. The venues can actually have control over the information that's in their listing. So it definitely helps. And as I say, often with the bigger, the 5-star hotels we've got here, the Kempinski and the Premier, we package these up into a whole, if you like, blog sponsorship deal every year for them. So yes, it makes money, and it drives the conversion rate to your newsletter sign up. It is really fantastic in the app. You have a button that has a ebook cover or e-guide cover, and people can't help but press that and put in their details. And so I think it's something that people should do. It makes money, but be prepared for not instant return. It's a bit like starting a new blog in some respects. But the great news is you've got the content there. So I think it's a no-brainer for people to do this.
It's another channel for your existing content. So, like you said, once you've created it, then it's a no-brainer. Okay, wow. So we basically, I'm actually, while you've been talking here, I've been looking at some property in Bansko. I'm really quite curious. And geez, they're cheap apartments, like 15,000 euros to get yourself an apartment in Bansko. So I can see the appeal. Lance, you have a blog, you have an app, you got all those different income streams. You have a tech person helping you, obviously a partner now in the apps business. You're making around 60,000 euros a year, which clearly in Bulgaria is well and truly enough, judging by the pricing of property. And you don't have to work a full-time job anymore. So what's left? What are you shooting for now?
Well, as they say, you shoot for the sun, and if you get the moon, then that would be great. No, I'm shooting very high now, and as I may have mentioned to you on our discussion earlier, Yaro, we've got a big contract we're about to sign, where we're acting as more the back-end people putting together all sorts of apps in a few other industries apart from blogging that will mean real volume at the right price. So we're very, very excited about that. So we're looking at producing a lot more income through the joint venture business, and but continuing to develop the the niche of Bansko blog and the app that goes with it. But the app business I see is a fast track growth. And my tip is if people want to do a niche, it can lead to other things. And I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, which leads me to my final question for you, Lance. Going back to the beginning, and especially given your, I'm not going to call it a slow start. I think it was potentially a slow start, slow enough that most people probably wouldn't have continued. Like I'm, the fact that you've reached the point you have really is a testament to how much faith you had, and we're willing to just keep doing the work. And seeing a little bit of success and using that as enough to motivate you to keep going. What's your advice for the people out there who, in particular, if they're thinking, I've got a niche like this, I've got like my favorite place I go camping, or I'm just really into this obscure form of mountain bike riding, and I'm thinking, I'd love to have the blog about that, but they're just not sure if it's going to be the foundation for a business. What would you tell them? What would you suggest they do in particular? Okay, so the first part of the question is what would I tell them? I'd say now, I think if we look all around us, we see marketing has changed. Everything used to be for the average person, the mass market, and I don't think any of us really want to feel that way anymore. And obviously, companies have become a lot smarter at putting us into niches and appealing to that niche, and we want we pay for that extra value. So the world is full of niche customers, if you like, and don't feel you have to do something general and mass, but find a niche and find your voice for that niche. Sorry, your second part really was how should you go about it then? If you're looking at a resort, then I'm very happy to receive an email for anyone thinking of setting something up similar to what I'm doing, because there is big opportunity there, I think, and we've got a platform that can help you do that, particularly with regard to the app. And the other thing is the content will, if you write it well and you produce good visuals as well, you need good photographs, will bring you an audience and you will get on the front page of Google. But you do have to stick at it. So I'm kind of being realistic with people. Are you up for a bit of hard work? If you are, then keep up that work. I know it can be difficult after coming back from work and sitting down on the computer, but maybe if you've got some time on the train or something like that, then it can give you a chance to write some content. But most of all, pick something you actually feel really comfortable writing about, and can you imagine yourself still being able to write about it in a few years' time? Mm-hmm. So that's my tip. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think you just quoted one of my articles there.
Right.
So what's
guys? It's not been prearranged.
Yeah, no, this wasn't. Lance, the email address for you, for anyone who does want to take advantage of that, if they're thinking of starting a ski resort blog and app, how do they get in touch with you?
They can contact me at lance@banskoblog.com. And alternatively, I've got Lance at appfactory.bg if people are more interested in the app side of things. And that's it. They're very welcome to contact me, and I can pass on anything I can to try and help them get going in this niche.
Okay, and Bansko blog, that's BANSKO blog.com. And it's the resort of Bansko, if you want to find it. So that's, like I said, put it on the map for me. Never heard of it before this. So thank you, Lance. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
That's all. And just to say thank you to Yaro for sort of us connecting once again and getting in the app world. And I look forward to working with you on that.
I do too. I'm looking forward to having an EJ app out there and seeing how well it does. So we'll keep everyone updated, of course, on how that goes on my blog. So for the time being, though, thank you, Lance, for sharing your story in such detail, and good luck with the growth of the app business. And of course, the blogging continues to fuel everything, as well as a a fairly good stable cash flow source, which is impressive. And for anyone else listening in, if you are interested in getting more interviews like this and you want inspiration as well as very tactical and strategic advice on how to actually set up things like blogs and apps and anything to do with online business, you know where to go. My Entrepreneur's Journey blog has my podcast archive. You can also subscribe to this podcast in iTunes. I hope you've already done that. If not, go do that right now. And you can find my blog and everything by Googling my name, which is Yaro, Y-A-R-O. And thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you again on a future interview very soon. Bye-bye. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed that fantastic interview with Lance. As you can see, it is possible for you to start a blog while you're working a full-time job and work on it during your off hours, so before work, after work, lunch breaks, while you're doing your commute, and on weekends. It can be something that's a part-time project which you slowly build up over time, and then through using various different income generation methods, like many of which Lance talked about in this interview, you can build up enough of income to eventually quit your job. And like Lance, you could potentially move to another country where the standard of living is much better for your lifestyle, or just travel to see new places. Whatever the case may be, a blogging business grants you that freedom. If you're interested in following in the footsteps of Lance, like him, and taking my Blog Mastermind training course, I'd like to invite you to once again take a look at the sign-up page. It's at www.blogmastermind.com/sign-up. That's where you'll find all the information about the program, as well as how you can enroll in the next running of the course. My name is Yaro. I'm the teacher of that program, and I'll be helping you to grow your own blog over the course of that program. Once more time, it's at www.blogmastermind.com/sign-up. That's it from me. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you soon.